The point is to do less and feel more accomplished. Here's how I do it. Listen, I'm not a productivity guru, but I'm a regular millennial with a full-time job that keeps a to-do list, so I think we can relate. I'm going to show you how I get shit done, but while avoiding toxic productivity. Take what works for you, and please leave comments on things that might help me. I use 3 tools: my bullet journal, this beautiful to-do list throne by Ugmonk, and very rarely Siri. So let's start with the core of the system, my bullet journal. At the beginning of every month, I write in to-dos I would like to get done in my bullet journal. Keyword, like. But at the very least, I try to make sure they're things that matter to me or things that matter to someone I care about. But before I come up with things to do for the current month, I go back to the previous month to see what was left undone. Then I briefly reflect on why I didn't do this task in the first place and decide if it's worthy of being copied into the next month. This helps filter out all the bullshit and focus my time on things I care about. Things that make life easier, things that work toward a goal, or things that provide fulfillment. These are the most special to-dos, the to-dos that I have to choose to make time for, not things that will inevitably get done regardless if I just go through the motions of life. As for the more typical, less special, chore-like to-do lists, this is where the to-do throne comes into play. I use this bougie task list in 2 different ways, as a might-do list or an oh shit, I need to get all this done ASAP list. For the might-do list, I refer to my monthly to-dos in my bullet journal and copy over the smaller tasks, or I create subtasks for larger ones. Then I add in the random, lingering menial tasks that are kind of time-sensitive. So like, send this email, return this waffle maker, repot this plant. I've learned from a friend that these can be called gnats, because they randomly annoy you and won't go away until they're taken care of. My to-do throne is strategically placed behind me as a passive, gentle reminder where it can easily be seen when I'm seated at my computer. But even though this might-do list isn't as special as the monthly to-do list, it serves as a source for the most important part of this whole system, the daily highlights. More juice on this later. So anyway, this list will sit out until I need more space, when a new set of tasks are taking up brain space, or if I'm just over it and none of it matters anymore. When I make a new list, I use the same method for my monthly to-dos, where I decide if it's still worth my time or deemed as a time-sucking distraction. When used as an oh shit, I need to get all this done ASAP list, I'll make a whole new card to place in front of the current one. These are for events that require more of a checklist, like packing for travel, working on a project that has several moving parts, prepping to host a party, or when wanting to tackle to-dos in the most efficient order when driving around running errands. Basically, it's a list for when there's a bunch of stuff that needs to get done on a very strict timeline. If you haven't noticed, it's more important for me to eliminate tasks than it is to create them. And there's no rule that says I have to complete everything on this list. I used to strive for 100% completion on a lot of things in life, but this is one of the first places where I realized that if I wanted to spend the little free time I have on things that make life easier, work towards a goal, or provide fulfillment, I was gonna have to start letting go of getting things done. The point is to do less and feel more accomplished. Now for the juicy part that actually brings sanity and meaning to my life. Daily highlights. These are 1 to 3 things that will bring the greatest sense of accomplishment for that day. When I'm setting up my calendar for the month in my bullet journal, the first thing I do is log in events and due dates. For all the other days, either before bed or first thing in the morning, I write down a maximum of 3 things I want to get done that day. The bottom line is that they should either be urgent, non-negotiable, satisfying to complete, or bring joy. These are other things that I come up with in that moment or something sourced from the might-do list. Whenever a new to-do pops up while I'm out and about, I use Siri reminders. The notifications sit on the home screen of my phone and then I transfer them into my bullet journal. Or I use my bullet journal to set a reminder for something I might forget to do before getting home.
Okay, your reminder is set for tomorrow 7 p.m.
This way, I don't waste brain power holding on to a to-do in thin air. As you can see, the majority of my to-do list process is analog. The action of physically writing things down to unload my brain and having a finite amount of space helps me keep things concise and focused. And I can't deny the satisfaction of physically crossing things off paper. Another thing I love about having an analog calendar as my primary schedule and task manager is that it forces me to delay my response to commitments. In order for me to decide if I want to go to an event or take on another task, I often have to wait several hours to check my calendar. This gives me a window to really think about if I actually want to do this, thus reducing the amount of times I agree to doing something I might regret later. I recognize this may seem like a very complex system to anyone that's not me, but if there's one thing I would really suggest starting with is coming up with a system that filters your to-dos down to daily highlights. Now, time for the hard part. If time allows, I start with something I actually want to do, something that usually exercises creativity and excites me. If I'm limited on time, I think about what is the highest leverage activity I can do that will push the needle forward. Where at the end of the day, even if I didn't finish anything else, I'd be happy I did just that one thing. If that's not feasible, then I'll go for the to-dos that make the rest of my life easier. This might not be super exciting, but they'll make time for me to accomplish more meaningful daily highlights during the work week. Things like meal prepping smoothies for breakfast or tidying my space. But if I'm really pressed for time, there's the non-negotiables, the bare minimums of life. But overall, I ask myself if I'm okay with the consequences if I don't do certain things. And if the answer is yes, then there's no absolute need to get this thing done. To be honest, decreasing my obsession with getting things done has been something I've been trying to work on. But this mindset alone has been the most helpful in letting go of things I don't actually want to spend my time on. Again, the point is to do less and feel more accomplished. If you want to see how I use my entire bullet journal to help battle the Sunday scaries and analysis paralysis, watch here.